Hi, good day, everybody. This is Dave Cross with you, and I am going to follow up on another video about n8n. And I had been working on, as I had mentioned in my last video, some of the automation side for AI, having the ability without having to paste, a JSON format or a specific, specificity. I wanted the ability to be able to type out a command, have it interpret the specific values within that sentence or a string of sentences, and really to construct all of the import responsibility, the export, the email, everything that's necessary, and to then return the response in the email to the user. So what I've done, and I'm going to go through this in more detail because it is pretty detailed here in order to get this to work right. So in the chat node, I'm using this as my trigger, and so I'm going to have a specific sequence here. But I'm going to show you this particular set of rules because I went through many different iterations of this, and I found that it changed the response almost every time I did this, and it might still be doing this. I think I'm at the point where it's working, and we're going to find out. So what I have done, and I follow some instructions from a bunch of these experts in this and so on about getting your prompts, and then I've run this through ChatGPT, and I've had to clean it up and run it through and clean it up, and I think I'm there. So basically what I've got into this AI agent, what you really need to have, is one, to specify the role of this particular device. And I'm saying that you're a skilled linguist. Understanding language really is what I want, so that they can break down the commands. And then turn it into IP control, the version, and then to analyze the detail and extract the required meaningful data to construct and do an import, right? The instructions then are going to tell it to go through and do these specific instructions: parse out the input, generate a tokenized list of what their lowercase words are, and then set an action name that they're going to work with. The input completion is going to go through and verify some specific inputs. Never ask for confirmation, just continue to do it. If it doesn't have the fields there, all right. And then going down even to more specific handling rules. So you almost have to get into how the particular formats of data look if you expect it to be the same. And what I'm doing here, and this was a little bit of a challenge from me, is that when we do next available IP assignments and IP control, we do it based on the IP of the subnet slash a directional denotation. So whether from, start from, end, basically in directional. And then telling this particular system, though, that if I had a subnet supplied, add the from, in, from, start. If I had an IP host within a subnet, to just use it as is, because that was a challenge and it kept trying to do certain things. So I think we have that there as well. And then I went through a whole mapping for the fields so that if a user had subnet space and some value, that it would, map these from the user's context to the input device context, which is important to map the field names that we're going to use down here shortly. I then have some defaults and fallbacks. So apply the naming policy if it's not specified. That's for the automatic host naming. And this is where I had a little bit of problems with the emails, as it would apply the naming policy, and in the response, it would give me the IP address, but fill the host name in as apply naming policy, which is not what I wanted. So I had to go in a little bit further and specify some rules to tell it to wait even further. User-defined fields, I wanted to go in and define this. And then I have an expiration date here that I want to calculate, basically, the number of days from now to become the expiration date, which I thought was kind of cool. And I've had some use it, and it actually works well. So I'm going to show you that. And then from the email, I want it to automatically handle the emails. So once it determines that there is an email, there's a to, and there's a CC, I want it to complete, and they should have this type object used for that emailing. And then I'm going to have at the very end of this, it's going to show all of the details of the action and execution, so that in the return response, in the JSON at least, we can see really the logic that it applied, how it parsed out the fields, and so on. And then down into the rules. And this I found, I think, is applied and it's being used each time, but you kind of have to check it. But these are some things like don't hallucinate. These have to be very specific, and we're not going to allow it to, kind of answer out of its historical data or trained data, because that obviously is not going to be correct. And then I had to put this in this morning, and I don't know if this is applied, but it looked like it did. We're going to find out. Now, I heard some suggestions that you should go ahead and make available, or define what available tools are available for the AI agent to use. And so I have just right now the import IP address, but you'll see here I'm planning to do the export devices block and import block. And then I also have the send mail. So I plan to add these others into the scheme that it'll detect whether I'm doing an IP or a block. I'm not sure how big this AI agent will get, and I might just do that as a different AI agent and have it maybe route to it based on its selection. The import IP address, so I tell it with the tool schema. Here's JSON. This is what it should look like. Here's an example of these values and datas and user definable field looking infrastructure. And then here's where it's going to go and give us the output, basically. So giving us the required fields, or actually more of the schema, what's required, the defaults, field transformation, and it apparently reads through this as it's going through and building that and constructing it for transformation. And then expected output. This is what I wanted to tell it I expect to see. And again, I don't know it's entirely doing this, but we're going to find out in some detail as I go through this and more. But this is kind of giving us as an example of here's what it tokenized in terms of what our action is in case we needed to audit it or debug. We would have that ability to see what we thought it was handling. And then the rest of this is just additional context. Here's the current date and time, which is the JavaScript now mustache syntax. So that it's pretty detailed. And I did literally find that it had to be that detailed in order to, really properly manage this. I also found in dealing with this that really GPT-4o Mini was about the only AI model I could make work. Simple memory is fine. And then the import IP address, just telling it, here's the AI add IP. So I created a custom workflow in our cloud automation appliance so that I could handle the authentication and allow the AI just simply to post data and not worry about who does it need to log in as and security and stuff. Let the automation appliance handle that. But it also gave me the ability to go in and set up some of these predefined filters and, really to set up, where the structure is, the format of that structure, and then it just simply calls it and returns it into that value. And then once it sends out that email, I have in here also a basically everything is automated. So AI fills in everything that it needs to do based on the AI prompting so that these fields can be defined by the AI and automatically filled in. And that's effectively what it does. Okay. So this is just a simple flow. Now it's really simple in terms of adding it and modifying it and stuff. I mean, that was pretty basic. The AI agent took about the most time. But now here is the prompt itself. So it doesn't matter what any of this is here. What we're looking at is we know this is an IP and eventually it will be. So I'll say new IP, but here is where we're capturing subnet. So that's one of the tokens. The container is also one of the tokens it pulls out. And server is a device type token. So it does look for those type modifications. Address type is set to static. The host name I set to apply, and then the description I could set to others, and domain name. I also set the user definable fields. So it does allow me to set the owner email if those are out there. And then here is that calculate string I was telling you about. A little bit more advanced here, but this might be more of a prompt that your user isn't supplying, but they may provide a couple of fields that in that chat are then automatically populated through this. And we would build that input chat basically to ensure it was properly formatted. So I don't think that the user would do this. We maybe have 1, 2, 3 fields. So this is running, and it went out, imported the IP address. It hasn't sent my email, which is good. Now it has, and it sent everything out. And this is what it's kind of showing us that it's sending back, and it did fill in the proper server, right? Now I think it's going to send me an email here, so let's see if I can find that. Yeah, here it is. And so this is the email that's being sent. I've got this in another window here. So this was the assignment. Sent it to my OpenAI, David Cross at CC, and it just said, "Here's your new assignment and confirmation." So from an AI operations side, and I put out a audio book for this recently, but there's from that AI operations side, that's tremendous. And if we can get the prompt down right, And you can get a service desk, or you can open up some type of chat model in your environment. You can almost think of that from a help desk perspective. When I go in and do things like now through ServiceNow, whatever, this might be a self-service service desk that creates the ticket and kind of takes that prompt and fills it in automatically, or even that your ServiceNow, once they put that in, completes this prompt. And instead of having a chat, we would have a webhook out here, and you would submit that webhook, and that would work. So that's always been pretty cool. Now, the other thing I did here, and I showed you before, is with this, or maybe you didn't see all of this, and I'll come back to it, but I had also another model which also listened to IMAP. So effectively, you could do a chat like what we were doing just a minute ago, or you could go out and send an email with that same infrastructure. This particular AI agent would listen to the IMAP, pull the email in, process it, and in the end, it would effectively do the same thing and give it a structure output. Some of this worked, some of it didn't work, so I kind of started down another path, and that's where I kind of ended up with this one here. And I think from here, I'm going to start building in, since I know this works and the AI rules work, that I can build from this and do the same IMAP. And then from here, I think I'll expand to the subnets and see what I can, how I can break it and figure out what it really, really, really takes. Because end of the day, really not. I mean, if you don't know what it is, and if it's not consistent every time, it's really not useful. So we have to make sure it's useful. And if it takes that much, then maybe we need to construct some, predetermined prompts to make sure that everything is properly defined, like we do with the nodes. And maybe that's an option, to have that type plugin for this. But wanted to show that to you. So if you're working on n8n, let me know. I am very interested in know who's using it today and how you're using it, and if you're doing it just to generate viral videos or if you're using it for business purposes. And that's what I want to, other than the viral external business side, but the internal business side. I'm interested if anybody's doing that today, and looking forward to see it. So anyway, that's my video. Thanks for the 12, 13 minutes here. I appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend. And again, let me know if you have any comments or suggestions, or if anything here looks like might be of interest to you. Appreciate it. Take care.